Alright, let me just make sure that everything is working before we start over here. Okay. So today's story is going to be about the father of the Baal Shem Tov. His name was Rav Eliezer. And this story, I looked online and I could not find it anywhere, or people talking about it. I usually have pretty good research skills, but I couldn't find it. I've heard it and I came across it in other svarim. It's a very, very interesting, crazy story. So I have this book over here, Shifchei HaBaal Shem Tov. So Shifchei HaBaal Shem Tov is like a biography of the Baal Shem Tov and different things like that. And this one, I picked it up a few years ago, just randomly in a svarim store. It's like a very academic, I guess, edition of the book. It's put together by a professor, Avram Rubinstein, who's a professor in the Bar Ilan University. And he was from Poland, and he was a historian, and he did a lot of research, and it's just a crazy book. There's footnotes and documents and all this crazy information about it. So in this book, there is a story of the Baal Shem Tov's father. Before it even talks about the Baal Shem Tov, it talks about the Baal Shem Tov's father and how the Baal Shem Tov's father and his wife conceived the Baal Shem Tov and the story behind it. So I didn't put any footnotes. I'm sorry, I didn't put any screenshots of the story just because the words are so small. And also I'm in a little bit of a rush today. But basically the story is like this. So Rabbi Eliezer and his wife, they were very old, and they lived in the southwestern part of Ukraine, or whatever it was back then, closer to that area, in a town called, in this book it's called Valcha. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. And he writes in the footnotes that it's talking about the country of Moldova. Moldova is right under the Ukraine, in the bottom left of, I guess, the country, southwest, bottom left. And he lived in Moldova, and they didn't have any children, and they were very old. And one day, these bandits, criminals, came to their town, and they kidnapped Rav Eliezer, and they took him away. And his wife ran away, and she became a midwife somewhere else to save herself. I guess these guys took over the town or whatever, and they took the Baal Shem Tov's father, Rav Eliezer, to a faraway land where there was no Jews. And they sold him as a slave, servant type thing. And his master really liked him, and he took really, and the Baal Shem Tov's father, you could imagine, he probably wasn't a bad servant. He probably did what he was told. So his master really liked him, and he took care of him. And he asked him for advice and different things like that. And the Baal Shem Tov's father asked him if he could have one day off, which was Shabbos, and he didn't have to do anything. And he sat in his room and he learned and prayed all day. And that's where he was. And many times he thought about running away, but he was able to be known from Shemayim that it wasn't the right time to go yet. So he stayed, and he was a servant. One day his master, whoever he was, had some business to do with one of the king of that country's advisors. So this master took the Baal Shem Tov's father along to this advisor, and he gave the advisor Rav Eliezer as a present, meaning he gave him over as a servant to this advisor, and there was and now he became this advisor's servant. And this advisor realized that the Baal Shem Tov's father was a special person, so he did not make him work at all. He let him sit in his room. He had a cheder, a special room for himself, and the Baal Shem Tov's father studied there and prayed there and everything. And the only thing that he would make him do was that when this advisor would go to the king, on the way back, when he came back, the Baal Shem Tov's father would bring him a bucket of water and wash his feet. That's what it says, because that was the derech of the people back then to do that. So anyway, this went on for some time. And then one day the king said to his advisor, there's this big war coming, we have to take over this battle, there was an army coming, something like that. And he asked the advisor to come up with a plan, like a war plan, Kilu, to win the war. And he could not figure it out. And he was very sad and very angry, and the king was very angry with him that he could not figure out a good plan. And he came back home, and the Baal Shem Tov's father, of course, went out to meet him with this bucket of water or whatever. And the guy's like, "No, I don't want it." And he went down and he lay down in his bed. He was very angry. So the Baal Shem Tov's father, Rav Eliezer, came, and he said to him, "What's going on? Like, what's pshat over here? Why are you so angry?" And he didn't want to tell him, and he pushed him. Finally, he told him that the king asked me to come up with a war plan. We have this army coming, this battle, and I can't figure it out. So I'm very angry, and the king is very angry with me. So he said, Hashem knows everything in the world, and I will ask Hashem. And he did a tainus, and he did a shelas chaloim, I guess asking in a dream what this guy should do. And they answered him in Shemayim. Let me see what it actually says in here, just so that I... It says, he said to his master, Hashem always has the answers. Hashem is the ish milchama. I'm going to fast, do a tainus hafsaka, and I'm going to ask from Hashem what to do. And he asked on a shelas chaloim, and the oifanei hamilchama, I guess the oifanim are angels, so the angels of war explained to him exactly what to do in this situation. And the next day he went to his master, and he told him everything that he learned up, that they showed him from heaven, from Shemayim, and it was a very good idea. And he went to the king, and he was extremely happy, and he told the king what to do, this eitzah. And when the king heard all these words from his advisor, he said, this advice is not from this world. And he said this is from somebody who's like a very spiritual person, a very, very holy person, and you're not. He knew about him. And he said that I know that you're not a holy person, an ish elokai. So what's going on? Maybe you're doing some black magic from the Ruach HaTumah. And this advisor was forced to tell him the truth, and he told him everything to do. And the king went, and he won the war, and he therefore took, and he therefore took the Baal Shem Tov's father's advice, and he made him the Sar Tzava of his war. He made him big in his he basically became an advisor also for this king. And again, the Baal Shem Tov's father also thought, okay, this is it, like I have to go back to my wife, you know what I mean? Like she doesn't even know where I am. What's it called? But again, they told him from Shemayim, don't stay, you still have to stay. So now the Baal Shem Tov's father was this king's advisor for the wars, and he he said to the king, he told him all of his ideas and everything like that. So then the main advisor, the one that brought him to the king in the first place, he was nifter, he died, and the king took his daughter and gave his daughter to the Baal Shem Tov's father as a wife. So obviously the Baal Shem Tov's father is still married. He was a holy Jew, and obviously he could not be with this lady, and he did not sleep with her at all. He didn't do anything. He tried all the time. Whenever she was home, he would not be at home. He was doing all these different things. He would always be in the castle when she was, whatever. He would always be by the king when she was at home, vice versa. And one day she went to him and she said, what's going on? Like, why don't you love me? Why don't you touch me? like everyone else in the world, and what's it called? And he said, and he had to tell her, listen, I'm a Jew, and I'm married, and you weren't allowed to be Jewish in that country. And he told her, I became this, and I was taken captive, and he told her the whole entire story. And she said, whoa, and she let him go, and she sent him back to find his wife with treasures and gold and diamonds. And on the way back, he was robbed by bandits, but he still made it home. And he found his wife, and I think he found his wife in a city called Okapi, which still exists in the Ukraine. It's a little bit above Moldova. If you look on a map, I actually looked on the Google Maps yesterday when I was preparing for this. And it makes sense because he probably ran away from Moldova, so it's nearby. And he found his wife in there, and that's where it says that the Baal Shem Tov was born. And he went to his wife, and he was with his wife, and they had the Baal Shem Tov. And the Baal Shem Tov said, and this is a known thing, that his parents were around 100 years old when they conceived him. Because the Baal Shem Tov said that at that age, there's absolutely no, there's no real, how do you say it? It's a very, very pure act. Very, very little taiva involved. And that's the only way that they were going to be able to bring down the Baal Shem Tov's soul in this world. And that's how the Baal Shem Tov was born. And that's the story for today. It's pretty out there. Just wanted to give that over because I have not seen it online anywhere. I don't know if people knew that. And obviously, the famous story afterwards with the Baal Shem Tov's father, before he died, both of his parents died when he was very young, because obviously they were over 100 years old. He told him, you shouldn't be afraid of anything, and all that stuff. And hopefully we'll talk more about the Baal Shem Tov in future videos. Today's a short-ish video. If anybody has any more information on the story, or anybody heard anything else, please let me know in the comments. And that's it. Looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say, and looking forward to making some more videos next week. Have a great day.